We now have a sitting MP who is calling for support for a group that the Home Secretary said she's going to ban as a terrorist organisation. Yes, even as I said that, it sounds a little bit bizarre, but allow me to explain. So let's start first of all with Palestine Action. You're aware that they broke into or claimed responsibility for breaking into an airbase and causing millions of pounds worth of damage to aircraft, in response to which Yvette Cooper said, and I quote in Parliament, "I've decided to proscribe, ban, Palestine Action under Section 3 of the Terrorism Act 2000. Now, there's two terrorism acts, and that'll become important in a moment. One of them is the 2000 Act, another one is 2006, following the 7/7 bombings in 2005. The latter act more generally to clamp down on encouragement of terrorism, particularly homegrown terrorism. More about that in a minute. She says a draft prescription order will be laid in Parliament on Monday, the 30th of June. If passed, it will make it illegal to be a member of or to invite support for Palestine Action. Now, admittedly, this is not yet a proscribed group, but that may not matter for reasons I'll explain. Now, let's go to the tweet in question. Zarah Sultana, MP, posts, "We are all Palestine Action." Now, note the timing of this post of 11:07 this morning, and that's obviously after this statement has been made in Parliament, which was on Monday, yesterday. And clearly the intent is there to proscribe this group following those actions. Zarah Sultana says, "We are all Palestine Action." So clearly, objectively, you may see that as a tweet or a post encouraging people to be part of Palestine Action, to do things like they've done, perhaps. Let me know in the comments if that's how you read that tweet there. Not telling you what to think, I'm just saying objectively, that's certainly one possibility. Now, why is that a problem? Aside from the fact that she's limited responses here, that doesn't really matter. Why is this a problem? Well, let's move to the 2006 Act. Remember I said this was discouraging acts and clamping down on acts of encouraging terrorism and so on. Let's take a look. Now, I'm not making any statements of fact here, but I'm just saying that there is a question to answer. In my view, I think there is a potential question to answer here in response to that tweet. Because under Section 1, let's look very generally, you understand, as to if somebody posts something that was doing any of these kind of things, what this might mean. If somebody were to post something which would be seen as encouragement of terrorism, that would be a terrorism offence. Under Section 1, this section applies to a statement that is likely to be understood by a reasonable person as a direct or indirect encouragement or other inducement to some or all of the members of the public to whom it is published, to the commission, the preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism or convention offences. Bearing in mind that the Home Secretary's view is clearly in response to this incident here. Now, just to be clear on that, she says, counter-terrorism policing is leading the criminal investigation into this attack. It's important that the process is free from interference and that the police are allowed to carry out other important work, etc. And furthermore, she says, regardless of whether this incident itself amounts to terrorism, such activity is clearly intimidatory and unacceptable. It is one that's been repeated many times by this organisation at sites the length and breadth of the UK. And she went on to say, I've considered carefully the nature and the scale of Palestine Action's activity. Proscription represents a legitimate response to the threat posed by Palestine Action. The first duty of government is to keep our country safe, which is the foundation of our plan for change. So very broadly, it has been investigated as to whether these are acts of terrorism, and it's been treated as such because it's been investigated by counter-terrorism policing and so on. With that in mind, back to the Act, the 2006 Act. Now, a person under this section commits an offence. I'm reading from 1 sub 2. A person commits an offence if he publishes a statement to which the section applies or causes another to publish a statement, at the time intends members of the public to be directly or indirectly encouraged or otherwise induced by the statement to commit, prepare, instigate acts of terrorism or convention offences, or, and here's the key one, is reckless as to whether members of the public will be directly or indirectly encouraged or otherwise induced by the statement to commit, prepare or instigate such acts or offences. And furthermore, there's a clarification under sub 3. For the purposes of this section, the statements that are likely to be understood by a reasonable person as indirectly encouraging the commission or preparation of acts of terrorism or convention offences include every statement which A, glorifies the commission or preparation, whether in the past, in the future, or generally of such acts or offences, and is a statement from which members of the public could reasonably be expected to infer that what is being glorified as conduct that should be emulated by them in existing circumstances. And under sub 4, it looks at the contents of the statement and the circumstances and the manner in which it's been published. So going back to the tweet just for a moment and speaking very generally without drawing any conclusions of fact here, you understand, it appears that there is at least some direct or indirect statement and encouragement of something or another. I don't think everybody will agree with the statement, but some people may objectively feel encouraged by that and encouraged to perhaps emulate the actions of Palestine action, which may be considered terrorism. So at the very least, I think there's a question mark here, not least of which as to whether or not this section of this act applies, but whether this should have been posted at all. Because Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary, has said that she is planning to proscribe this group under Section 3 of the Terrorism Act. So I think there is a serious problem here, but that's where we are right now. I think that's all I can really say, but let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching.